Welcome to another edition of the Let's Be Frank show. My name is Frank Mentone, and I'm the publisher of the Totucket Times. Traditionally, at this time of year, we always go over the state of the town. Later on, we'll go over the state of the Board of Ed, and sometimes we even do the state of the state. But tonight, our focus is going to be on the town, and my guest tonight is Town Manager Mike Paulhus. Mike, welcome aboard. I think this is our third or second year we've done this together.
Yeah,
third year?
second time on. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to get right into it because there's a lot going on. Usually we start with what's the state of the town, but this year we've just had an election and you're working under a new town council, so maybe we can go over that for a few seconds first.
You're right, yeah. We had new council and a couple of new faces, and that is George Miller and Chris Manna, and not a new face, but Mayor Duty is back. So those are the new members to the council, and I think it's a good group. I think what you'll find is that they're knowledgeable. They do their homework. They come prepared, which is great for me. I think it's a learning curve for any new member. And what I've found is, even though we've only had a couple of meetings, I think we're going on our fourth meeting, they're interested, they're dialed in, and they're looking and reading, going through, and that's you've got to think about sometimes getting a packet that's about this big, and got a couple of days to go through that and digest that, because they're not in doing the day-to-day stuff that I'm doing. They're there at the level in terms of policy and trying to read through it and synthesize it. But I give them credit. This is a good group. I think they're coming together, and I think it's going to be great going forward for the next 2 years.
And we often mention when we talk about the town council is that these people are all volunteers.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Obviously they're getting a packet that they have to go through because they have to know it. They all, unless I think a few of them might be retired, but unless they're retired, they have full-time jobs,
Right.
and most people in their full-time jobs don't work 40 anymore. They work 50 or 60,
Right.
and they're
Right.
now I always contend that it doesn't make a difference, and I guess the true politicians tell me that it does. This is the first year, I think, in 6 or 8 that we've had a Democratic majority. I look at it, they're all neighbors. To me, it doesn't,
Right.
I was on a couple of boards at different times of my life, and I didn't even know who on the board was a Democrat and who was a Republican. We showed up, we did our stuff. But does it make any difference? I mean, as far as...
Hard for me to say. I haven't been here that long. But again, it went, it did shift from 6-3 Republican to 5-4 Democratic. But again, I see it as a very cohesive group that's come together, and they're doing what's the best interest of the town. And like you said, they are volunteers, and they devote a lot of time to, familiarizing themselves with the issues and understanding the issues so that they can make an informed decision, and that's what they do. And as long as everyone comes to the table looking at putting the town's best interests and setting aside any preconceived notions or whatever, and I think they do. I think they come with an open mind, and sure, they may have a certain issue that they're following, and they may have a certain idea, but by and large, I think they're keeping an open mind. And again, it's a majority vote, and then hopefully we move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that said, what is the state of the town?
Well, the current state of the town, I think, is in very good shape. I like to say that our town is really has its fiscal house in order. It's really stable, and I think that's sort of the building block for any town. You've got to have a good, solid financial standing, if you will, and we do have that, and I think that's a testament to the council, which I believe is very into looking at their financial picture, so they understand where we are, and so they've set policies and they've stuck to those policies, which is, unlike other towns that you hear of that go into rating the pension and doing these other things. This council, and I think previous councils, have done a great job in setting the guidelines and the policies for keeping a very fiscally prudent policies in place. And so I always say that, unlike the state, I think the state, we all know, has got some problems, right? For the town and for our economic climate, I think we're doing a great job. And that's because they did what they needed to do in years past and setting the policy and sticking to it. And that makes all the difference, I think.
And usually the state problems, which I think we'll get to a little later in the show, the state problems obviously affect us and sometimes become our problems. 'Cause
Without a
of
doubt.
the fact that monies that normally might come
Right.
are not as loose as they might have been in the past.
Yeah, and like many towns in the state of Connecticut, the 169 towns, we're all looking for the state for some assistance, if you will, in terms of revenue. And so when the governor puts his budget together, there are a lot of needs, and it's not just at the state level, it's also at the municipal level. And they send money back to the state. We collect a lot and send to the state, of course, but they send a lot back to help out municipalities. But as the climate declines and taxes and or I should say the business climate erodes, we worry about what those level of funding is going to be, and it has been dropping. So it's tight, but again, if you look at like building a house, you start with the foundation. The town of North Branford has a great foundation in its fiscal policy. So I think we're in great shape, and again, it's waiting to see what happens with the governor and what the budget, where that goes. Every year it's a bit different, but it's nothing we can't overcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're hoping within the next month to have State Rep Candelora on the show, and he's usually pretty clear. He usually doesn't agree with most of the budget stuff from the governor, which he says that in the paper. He writes a weekly column
Sure.
in the paper, but hopefully we can have him clear up some of that stuff to let us know from that point how we're going to be
Sure.
as a town and what they're going to do to help us.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because we're also having Representative Candelora come to the town council the next meeting on the 16th to talk about the other side of the state assembly, General Assembly, and that is the laws that they pass. So the new laws, and some of those are what we call unfunded mandates. And so they pass along these new laws, but without the dollars to take care of it. So what we call unfunded mandates, and those are a burden for the towns and the cities. And so I think Representative Candelora has been a great advocate for the town. He's a great guy. He's accessible, and he's coming to explain to the town council some of these different laws that they passed back, whether they were effective July 1 or October 1 or January. So we're going to go through a list of those to make sure we understand the impact and those that he sees coming down the pipe, to see what the impact's going to be.
Okay. With that said, knowing how much money we have and we don't have, what projects are we working on now in the town?
We've got a few things, one of which, in terms of economic development, has been the issue of what to do with 1599 Foxen Road. And that has been, part of what the Economic Development Commission has talked about in terms of doing the charrettes. And we got to a point where we went through an RFP, went out, had a preferred developer. We're negotiating on that. Weren't able to come to terms with them. Severed our ties with Center Plan, and now we're trying to reevaluate. But that is a piece of parcel that is 5 acres. There's two sides to that project, and those that want it to remain open space, and those that want economic development. And it is in the heart of the business district along Route 80, as you know, and it's a focal point. So we were looking to build something or work with a developer to develop that as a prime piece of real estate and to put it back on the tax rolls. And anything that we can do to grow the grand list, I think, is important. But I think it was done in such a way that we were looking at trying to get the best of both worlds, which is to try and do some development there and put it on the tax rolls, but also have a open space or green space component, that where it could be a focal point, could be done in a way that it fits with the character of the town, and still allow people to have access to it, and whether it was going to be some sort of craft show or some gazebo or something like that. And it just didn't pan out with the developer, and we had one and only developer. We worked with them, tried to get that, but it just couldn't come to terms with getting that off the dime, so to speak, and get that moving. So we're going to have to reevaluate that. That's sort of that high profile piece that we've got to figure out a strategy for that.
Anything else going on before we get into your favorite, everybody's favorite topic?
Yeah, no,
the
sure. I
budget?
think there's, yeah, in terms of, other projects, there's a lot going on, I think. I mean, it happens to be, for me, sort of a feel for what's going on. And as you may know, they had the ribbon cutting for the third rink on the ice pavilion
Yes.
2 weeks ago. So that was
Front page of the Totucket Times, by the
yeah,
way.
perfect.
And I wasn't even there.
So that's just a great addition. That's millions of dollars into doing that, putting the third rink under ice. On ice under roof. Three under there, and the first in the state of Connecticut. That's a big addition. That's great for us, and it draws people in, as you know. And that's great for the town. That's been a success. And we've been doing a lot with the fire department's been doing a lot. And I know you've been reading about and probably driving by if you can see it from 22, the fire tower.
It's in the back. But
Yeah, you can see it. It's in the back,
you're
but
looking.
it's coming together. And we have mild weather, so that's been coming to fruition. And I think later this month they're going to try and get that finished up. And so that's been a pretty aggressive schedule, and I applaud them for that. The Chief Seward and his department have been, out in the forefront championing that issue. It's great not only for the department but for the town and for the region. For us to have that type of facility here in terms of the training that they're going to be able to do. So that's a great plus for the town. And in addition to that, they're getting a tanker, I believe, should be rolling out pretty soon, and coming from Wisconsin, I believe. They're going to be, very proud of that apparatus that they'll be able to put in service later this year in terms of the spring time frame. So we're working on back to 1599. One of the issues that we had there was environmental in terms of the building, not so much in the soil or the ground contaminant or anything like that, but more in the buildings in terms of lead and asbestos. So we've written a grant for the state to try and get that cleaned up, and we're waiting to hear from them on that. And that is a steep grant, and we're successful in a previous round to get steep grant to talk about upgrading the tennis courts at the high school, and that and the other chain link fence and that whole complex. Basically, we're trying to get the tennis courts upgraded. So. That's a springtime as well. We've got a $5 million road project that is ready to go out to bid this spring, and that the council approved last year. And that's going to be up in Northford section, Blue Jay, Skylark area.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to take care of a number of streets and a neighborhood up in that section that's been long overdue, and got to a point where the road just basically needs to be totally reconstructed. So that's why it's such an expensive proposition. It's more costly when you get to that point if it's life cycle that it has to be reconstructed versus just an overlay or
Right.
patching and so forth. So they've got to do the drainage, they got to get them in and take care of the drains and all of that stuff. So it's a big undertaking, but it's something that's long overdue, and it's something that it's sort of what we call bricks and mortar, that residents can actually see where their taxpayer money is going. Tax dollars are at work and improving their neighborhood, and we try to put together a study that looks at planning these projects out, and this is one that's been on the drawing board for a while and is finally getting out there to bid, and this spring and summer will be a major construction project. So there's quite a bit going on, and
So you got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah. In addition to that, we've got some turnover, and you and I talked before the show, and your last guest in terms of Lauren in the rec department. She's been a great, great addition. Not addition, but she moved into a position, and she's been fantastic. And so we're very happy and pleased with that. But we've had some turnover, and she's moved up. We brought in an assistant, and they've hit the ground running. And on the senior side, we had 2 people leave, so we've got to fill that. So we've had some turnover here and there. So some of the personnel issues have keeping me busy as well. But again, I think it looks great. They added the awning up there. We finished out the Stanley T. Williams and Community Center, Senior Center. So we've done a few things there, and I think things are starting to look nice.
Yeah, she's got a lot of good ideas that she mentioned on the show and everything. And sometimes turnover's not good. Sometimes it's very good.
Yeah.
You get some new blood, some new ideas, and
Right.
well, that'll hopefully work. So all these things take money, and I know the budget. It seems like the budget comes up every 2 or 3 months, not every year.
Hmm.
But once it's voted on, it's you have a year, and you guys get to work with it the whole year
Right.
because your life is running
Sure.
with the budget. Do you have anything going with the budget this year that?
Well, yeah, we're in the process right now of pulling all the department number requests into my office and the finance and beginning to look at those numbers. It's a process where, as you know, we have a fiscal July to June 30th fiscal year, which means this time of year we begin to sort of outline budget going forward in a process that the council will have it in March, and a hearing into April, and then the referendum is in May. So it's a kind of a condensed, but we start the process right now, and we'll have our meetings and our hearings. And again, it's a tough economic climate. So the message is that unless it's a necessity, there are no luxuries. There will be no wants. It'll be more of just bare bones kind of needs, and what does it take to keep the department running. And that's the other. Everything has to be justified. So you have to make a defense of it. You have to have the supporting documents. You got to tell the council why is a particular item important. I mean, anything above and beyond, we're going to take a look at, and it's going to have to be evaluated. So, fortunately, we're going to have some very sharp pencils, and we need to in this climate. It's not an easy task, but we're going to get it done.
Yeah, it comes up every year, obviously, but again, the problem is you get businesses closing, you get businesses struggling, and we talk about it. I've talked about it with different mayors that were on the show, different town managers, and the money's not there. It's simply,
Right.
and we don't have the businesses to support it. And I know the open space people will get offended when I say this, but we got to do something about bringing more businesses in,
Right.
and filling some of these spaces with businesses so that they can help us out in the taxes, or our taxes going to go up every year.
Right,
You know,
right. Yeah, I mean, and for us, I mean, the town as an entity, like any other business or homeowner, we don't escape, the cost of doing business. So, we've got, the insurance costs and wages and so forth that we've got to meet, and our debt service, and those are things that we can't escape. So, you're right. Business is a focus. We know that we're looking at, essentially, just so the viewers know, that we have a almost $14.5 million budget on the town side. So it's really it's all one budget, but it's broken out into what is the town side budget's about $14.5 million, and what is the Board of Education, and that's about just a little over 30.5, I guess, or 30.3 million, and that's the bulk of it. So a large amount of it goes into funding education. We have a debt service of about $5 million. So in total, we have close to a $50 million budget, and we've got to have enough taxes to cover that. But again, nobody likes runaway taxes. Nobody likes paying taxes at all. I understand that. But at the same time, we've got to provide the services, and those services cost us. It's no cost of doing business, so we've got to pay for those.
And a lot, now obviously most of that is paid for with the taxes, and we have the revaluation of the homes now.
Right.
Now, has that gotten, the people I spoke to said that their house is now valued at less because of the way they're older or whatever, but if those are valued at less, now that's less taxes that are
and it depends. We've seen all kinds of things in there in terms of residential and commercial, so it really depends on your home and your neighborhood, where you are, and where you kind of what the results are for you on this reval. So there are some that went up, there are some that went down, and it's just really, if you have any questions, certainly I encourage anybody to call Dave Ambrose, our assessor, he's really another good find for us that we brought on not too long ago, and Dave is really hands-on and is really knowledgeable and understands that the market being what it is, we now have a much more accurate picture going forward. And he was in last meeting to present on our grand list, and kind of dovetails with the conversation on business and economic development. Our grand list did decline this time around, and about 2.7% overall, which in the scheme of things around the region, around the state, is right in line with what's going on in the general economy. So we're not any better, we're not any worse, we're kind of right there with the rest of the flow in the state of Connecticut and what's happening. But to your point, yeah, business development, business retention, and growth is important, because that adds to the bottom line, which is the grand list. And if we can grow the grand list, then there are more people paying, and then theoretically you're spreading out the pain a little bit further. Yeah.
And what are we doing, and that's somebody who else will have on the show, to set up this show? Sometimes it's hard to get guests because people are shy, they don't like to talk in public. But we're hoping to get somebody from economic development. What are we doing there to focus on some of this stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that they should tell you what's going on. I've been telling the council they're a very energetic group, and they're very excited about what they're working on right now is a business visitation program. So getting out there kind of, with a sort of a listening tour, if you will, to talk to business owners and to find out, how can the town help? How can the state help? What are the issues? And then when we don't know unless we get out there and hear from them directly, and to say that, hey, maybe we can funnel some information to you about a specific program that you may be interested or unaware of. And so we want to hear the good and the bad and what's going on. And hopefully we're talking to owners that are in a position where they want to grow. And in fact, I took some time today to talk to one of those businesses, and that's Frank Capasso and Sons, and that's a great story. That's a great local story. Great business. I think they meticulously go about their business and sort of under the radar. And I got to tell you, I was impressed. I was impressed with their operation and what they do, and they're looking to expand. So they're moving across the street, doing demolition and taking the building, the old Estes trucking company. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a great. Whenever you have a local business that you work on retention of that business and growth on top of that, that's great. I mean, the rest of the state is and the country playing this game of how do we poach from one another. I think you got to start with what you have, and you got to talk to the businesses that are here, and there's more businesses I'm sure very, another one is Penn Globe Lighting, and they've got a great business model. I've met with them and talked with them quite a bit. They're growing and expanding, looking to expand, and those are great stories. And I'm sure there are many, many more I just don't know about, and that's what the Economic Development Council wants to do, is get out there and talk to these business owners and say, hey, what's going on? How can we help you? And if it is about finding new space or expanded space or remodeling, whatever it is, or maybe it's about employment, maybe it's about the workforce. How do we get trained individuals? It could be transportation, it could be a whole number of things, but we can't assist them and help them unless we know about it. So I think it's great that they're energized and they want to get out and do that.
Yeah, that would be good even if when they do meet with some of these people, I mean, I have no problem with putting stories in the paper to let the general public know about, like you mentioned, the skating rink, and we put that in the paper and let the public know that this is what they're doing. Obviously, these people are doing it for their own business, to improve their own business,
sure.
But in the mean, it's improving our town, it's improving our livelihood, because if these people are paying taxes, they're, as you said, they're sharing the load.
Right.
And
Right.
It's going to help by people knowing and maybe supporting the local businesses
and or job creation. If they create a job or start to hire incrementally. It doesn't have to be a home run and say, oh, we're hiring 20 to 50 people, but if they're adding on 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 people every year or every other year, that's the kind of incremental growth we should be saying, yeah, that's great. That is growth. It may be slow incremental growth, but it's still growth nonetheless, and it's a sort of a positive trend, and I think that's great, and not to say it's all local, but for every job created, there's more income just spinning around. That's an offshoot of their investment and what they do to have people employed and growing the employment base as well.
I don't want to put you on the spot because I have about 8 questions left,
That's okay.
and I think we should do this for an hour in the
Okay.
future because I get the director whispering sweet nothings in my ear,
Okay.
and he's telling me we get about 4 or 5 minutes. So
All right.
what I'm going to ask you to do is you hit the topic that you think, because I can ask you maybe the not the priority question, and there may be a priority question that we need to get out there now. So.
Sure. Yeah. No. I think this time of season, I'd like to talk a little bit about Public Works as well, and I think they do a fine job in clearing our roads, and Fran Marola, the superintendent, and his employees, I think don't often get enough credit, and they do a great job. I think I hear a lot that the other towns look when you come to winter and you look at the snow plowing effort here and you say, wow, it's blacktop in North Branford, and you look at towns around us and say, what are they doing? Or and they're coming, I think, to ask what are we doing that they're not doing. So the word's out that we've got top-notch crews here, and they give a lot, they do a lot, and that's just because it's the winter. I'm talking about that now, but it doesn't end there. They go through in the summer and the POCO Festival, and how much time and effort they put in to get there and to get that ready and so forth. So I think that's great. They're doing a lot of things in terms of sprucing up the Public Works facility, and just finished up the salt barn, which doesn't sound very sexy or glamorous, but it's again, it's having those things improved, and so the operations run smoothly. And so I think they do I think they do a great job for us.
Well, I tick a lot of people off because when they call me and they're afraid to go out in the snow, and they're from other towns, and they'll call me and say, oh, you drive on that stuff all the time, how are the roads? And I say, well, I can't tell you that because I live in North Branford and our roads are always good. So
Exactly.
that sort of gets them ticked off a little, but all right, 2 minutes.
So let's maybe segue back to Parks and Rec and the Senior Center. We will see some new faces there. We're bringing on a new program coordinator there that should be starting later this month and on the 16th, and a new van driver as well. So we're turning over, but I think that the seniors using the center will be quite pleased with the changes. And like you said, I think sometimes as a new face, new blood, new ideas help to reinvigorate what's going on there. And so I think the seniors will be very happy with that. Now that we've had the all of the physical improvements to the center, they'll see some new programming changes, hopefully, in terms of new ideas and things coming our way.
Yeah, well, that's it, because you get to the point where you're doing the same ones, and people want to see something different, and
Absolutely.
the people that are there are trying, but maybe somebody new and says, oh, wait, we did this here, or I read about this, and hopefully that works. All right. Last, anything new in Town Hall that we should know about? Any?
Yeah, Town Hall. Let's see. We've got a few things going on there in terms of website. We tweaked a while back, and we do have a section on there. I'm not sure many people are aware of, but it's called a newsletter. It's not really new. It's a newsletter, but it's an opportunity for people to sign up via email. So that we can push out anything that they're interested in.
Oh, okay.
So I think there are 4 sections in terms of the Town Council, P&Z, General, and Economic Development. So I think if you at least hit the general news, you sort of get the shotgun blast of things that are newsworthy or noteworthy, if you will, in terms of finding out what's going on. And we send out the agenda and so forth, and we're continuing to look at that and revamp that as much as we can.
All right. We didn't get it all, but you can go to the website, the town website, and get more. Or I know your office is always available if you have questions. And I thank Mike for coming on. It's always informative when he comes on and tells us what's going on. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll be back in a few weeks with either the superintendent of schools or the economic development, and we'll keep you informed. Thanks for watching, Mike. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, Have fun.